All right, welcome back to the fiction of Planescape. So, the Analects of Sigil. This is another little story, a short story with a big title by David Zeb Cook again. It's not very clear what the title actually means. An analect, the dictionaries tell us, is a collection of literary or philosophical texts. When people talk about the Analects in our world, they're usually talking about the collected sayings of Confucius. But the word doesn't seem to have any obvious referent in the story here. Maybe it just adds a little flavor to the story, a little bit of esotericism, arcana. The text of this story, the Analects of Sigil, introduces the 5 citadels of the Planescape setting. As far as I can tell, these 5 citadels, aka the 5 citadels of surrender, have not been mentioned in any other Planescape materials, although it's possible I've just missed them. But yeah, they don't seem to have the same continuing existence as the Codex of Infinite Planes, for example. Anyway, as with the plain truth, the Analects of Sigil is framed as a found document. In this case, it's the Confession of late Hannibal, scholar of the 3rd rank, as extracted by Jarek of the Mercy Killers before appointed witnesses. So it's a confession, right? And this is similar to how the plain truth was framed as a series of journal entries found by some magistrate. Hannibal, the person confessing here, the confessor, was a member of the Fraternity of Order, also known as the Governors. And he ends up shifting his allegiance to the Doomguard. Remember, these are different factions within Sigil. So Hannibal has been accused of killing Geron, a factor, which is something like a middle manager of the Governors. Hannibal, we're told, was a specialist on the citadels of the inner planes. And recall that we met a warrior from one of these citadels in the Plain Truth. I believe it's Ambrin has a conversation with a warrior from one of these citadels while he's watching the Modron March. And through luck, Hannibal has found a page from the Codex of Infinite Planes. Again, I talked a lot about this in the video on the plain truth. The page that he's found described some previously unknown citadels Hannibal set off and was eventually able to find. The 5 citadels of surrender. And this kind of tells what happens to him on his adventure. So at each citadel, you have to surrender something. The first citadel he comes to is on the plane of salt, and there Hannibal surrendered his fear. The second citadel is on the plane of ash. Hannibal surrendered hope. The third citadel is on the plane of vacuum, and Hannibal surrendered his compassion. The fourth citadel is located on the plane of dust, and there Hannibal surrendered his remorse. The 5th citadel is on the negative energy plane, kind of in the middle of these other planes. Hannibal does not visit the citadel on the negative energy plane himself, but he suggests that the ambitious Geron, his factor, his kind of manager or kind of leader, immediate leader, he suggests that Geron will feel compelled to visit it, and that whatever is surrendered there at this 5th citadel will be enough to kill him, end him. In any case, stripped of his fear, hope, compassion, and remorse, Hannibal becomes a Doomguard, a guardian of entropy. He shifts from the Governors, from the a Fraternity of Order, to the Doomguards. This conversion, another kind of transformation, right? We talked about transformation when talking about the plain truth, but this kind of transformation is not surprising given the context of Planescape. So one possibility is that Hannibal has simply discovered the Doomguard's own citadels. So according to the book A Player's Guide to the Planes, this was one of the original books of the Planescape campaign setting, it's written there that the Doomguard maintains one great citadel on each negative quasi-plane: ash, vacuum, salt, and dust. These are the four quasi-planes that Hannibal visited, right? Ash, vacuum, salt, dust. Then it writes, the negative energy plane represents the Doomguard's idea of the ultimate fate of the universe. So the Doomguard's citadels are built as close to the plane as practicality allows. It's not written that there is a citadel on the negative energy plane, though, which it's hard to envision how something would be built there. But there are citadels surrounding this negative energy plane on these negative quasi-planes of ash, vacuum, salt, and dust. So having passed through and been changed by the four great Doomguard citadels, then it's no surprise that Hannibal is converted from governor to Doomguard, from a law and order kind of guy to a, we're all decaying into nothingness kind of guy. Regarding the 5 surrenders, it may be mentioned, it may be relevant that Confucius's Analects mentions 5 central virtues, and later Confucians would write of 4 cardinal principles and 8 virtues. But these don't map in any obvious way onto the emotions surrendered at the 4 or 5 citadels. We don't really know what's surrendered at the 5th citadel. So it's not clear if there's any intentional relationship between Confucius's Analects and what goes on in this story. But I'll point it out anyway, as others have. So this story, the Analects of Sigil, is perhaps not as deep as the plain truth. It's shorter in any case, but it does have its interesting points. So for one thing, it shows the importance of psychology and belief in Sigil and on the plains. Gate towns in Planescape sometimes slide into the planes they lead to, if the balance of their citizens' psychological constitution changes too much in one direction. So you could, the gate towns are a little bit different than the planes they lead into, but if they become too similar, if people's beliefs become too similar to that plane, the whole town will slide through from the outlands into one of the other planes, and this could be a bad thing if you're a gate town leading into one of the hells or one of the abysses or whatever. But yeah, this is portrayed in the video game Planescape Torment and the novels that are based on that book. So that can be something that happens. And aside from this, the story gives more evidence of Zeb Cook's ability to improvise on ideas taken from literature. So for example, the importance of dreams, which we saw in The Plain Truth, and which I associated with Borges, Calvino, and Pavich, briefly manifests also in the Analects of Sigil in this story. So Hannibal recounts that his instructors in the Fraternity of Order love to tell us tales of things like Shalgtar's last entry on the dream snakes of Elysium in the Great Dictum. The Great Dictum is the governor's canonical text. And how they poured illusions, how these dream snakes poured illusions into his mind. This tale made a particular impact on me, though I did not know why at the time. Now I understand it all, of course. The dream snakes had influenced me through Shalgtar's words. Their power comes not just in their confrontation, but even in the discovery of their existence. Their influence on me was meant to be a warning, I sincerely believe, a caution for what I was about to discover. So that's a little bit of what Hannibal says about dream snakes in the Analects of Sigil in this document that's reproduced there. These dream snakes do not seem to appear in other Dungeons and Dragons materials, but they do recall Borges's Dream Tigers, right? Dream Tigers is the name of one of Borges's collections. There's also a story, Dream Tigers, which influenced Cook. To be sure, Cook's dream snakes and Borges's dream tigers exist in different ways. So the dream snakes are native to Elysium within the kind of Planescape setting. They're native to Elysium. Elysium is described in Cook's a DM Guide to the Plains as a land of fertile richness and unsurpassed natural beauty. Near the banks of the river Oceanus, which winds through all the layers, are tall trees, waving reeds, and lush meadows. In the hundreds of miles beyond the river's banks, the forests give way to grassy plains, then rolling hills, until the land finally becomes rugged badlands that are wind sculpted into forms of artistic beauty. The driving force of Elysium is goodness and goodness only. Order or anarchy, it doesn't matter, so as long as it's for the good. So this is the world in which the dream tigers are supposed to exist. Borges's dream snakes are supposed to exist, right, in Elysium. Borges's dream tigers, on the other hand, exist at the submerged or chaotic level of his dreams. Yet they're both in their own way autonomous. Although Borges's dream tigers do not have a kind of separate existence within reality as do the dream snakes within the world of Planescape, Borges also does not quite have control over them, right? They're part of his dream, but he's not in control of his dreams, at least not in full control of his dreams, as probably none of us really are. So Borges's attempts to cause himself to dream of tigers always misfire. They kind of come as they please. Well, there's not too much more to say about this story. Zeb Cook left TSR in 1994, the same year in which these stories were published, in which The Plain Truth and the Analects of Sigil were published, and in which the Planescape campaign setting boxed set was released. But the possibility, so he left, but the possibilities of the setting with its special tone and its set of guiding ideas would be elaborated on by other game designers and writers. And in the next videos, we'll look at how other writers have developed the Planescape setting. But that's all for this one, so thanks for listening. See you next time.